Can one comedy sketch cut so deep that its own creator cannot look at again? In 1977, Carol Burnett shocked her entire studio when a single episode drove the crew to tears and left viewers clutching tissues in front of their TVs. Awards showered the show. Critics called it genius. Yet Carol has refused to hit play for 47 straight years. The pain felt too real, she says, and the mirror it held up was simply unbearable. So how did America's Queen of Laughs reach that breaking point? To find out, step back to April 26, 1933, San Antonio, Texas, where newborn Carol arrived in a world already soaked in sorrow. Both parents battled alcohol addiction, and that disease swallowed every ounce of stability the toddler needed. Her dad ran projectors at a movie theater, but rarely kept a job, while her mom numbed regrets with equal parts gin and silence. Liquor would later claim both of their lives. By preschool, Carol knew what it felt like to be second to a bottle. Laughter became her shield against loneliness, a spark she clung to whenever her home turned dark. Eventually, her parents surrendered and handed her to the one person who still believed in her future, her maternal grandmother, Mabel White. In 1947-year-old Carol and Mabel headed for Hollywood, but no bright marquee welcomed them. They squeezed into one cramped room inside a rundown boarding house filled with addicts, dreamers, and souls scraping by on welfare. $20 a week paid rent and a little food, nothing else. Yet in that cracked paint room, Mabel wrapped her granddaughter in unconditional love, a gift the girl had never known. Amid peeling wallpaper and midnight arguments echoing through the hall, Carol invented an escape. She created an imaginary twin named Karen, bold, confident, always smiling. Carol would dash up a fire escape, switch clothes, change her hair, and burst back in as Karen, dazzling everyone with her grin. Minutes later, she returned as plain Carol, shy and watchful. The grown-ups believed every second, proof of how badly the house needed hope. Other getaways cost real money. Each Saturday, Carol and Mabel spent 25 cents, more than 10% of their weekly income, on 2 movie tickets. For a few gilded hours, they left behind hunger and fear and stepped into worlds of dancing stars and endless pie-in-the-sky kisses. When the credits rolled, reality crashed back, so they quietly stashed theater bathroom tissue in their bags just to survive the week. Shame never outweighed necessity. One afternoon, Johnny Weissmuller's famous Tarzan yell ripped through the speakers and struck Carol like lightning. At home, she practiced obsessively, perfecting every pitch until her lungs burned. She had no idea she was building stage-ready breath control. She only wanted to play. That yell later became a signature, erupting during live shows and sending crowds into roaring applause. By high school graduation, Carol clung to one dream, journalism. Her mother had once wished to write, and Carol felt duty-bound to finish that story. UCLA called, but a brutal wall blocked the path. $50 in tuition, roughly $600 a day. She didn't have it, and hope faded, until a mystery angel quietly paid the bill. No name, no conditions, just opportunity wrapped in kindness. At UCLA, she started in journalism, yet a single elective theater class flipped her universe. Inside that room, poverty melted, shyness vanished, and Carol lit up like a spotlight. She could sing, act, and make an entire room explode with laughter in the same breath. Professors noticed, classmates cheered, and Carol switched majors on the spot. Survival was no longer enough. She wanted to soar. The gamble paid off fast. By the end of freshman year, she earned the theater program's Most Promising Newcomer award. It wasn't just a title. It was permission to dream bigger. Doors flew open. Professors fought to cast her, and Carol stopped apologizing for wanting more than a safe paycheck. Then 1954 delivered a twist fit for Hollywood. Carol, now a junior, worked as an usherette for 65 cents an hour and attended a San Diego party mainly to smuggle hors d'oeuvres home for Mabel. A sharply dressed stranger approached. He was no agent, but a millionaire shipbuilder from La Jolla. Carol confessed she longed for Broadway, but couldn't even cover UCLA's fees. Without blinking, the man offered $1,000 to her and another $1,000 to her boyfriend, aspiring actor Don Soroyan. 3 rules followed. Never reveal his name, only spend the money reaching New York, and once they made it, they must help the next dreamer. He didn't want credit, just a chance to pay kindness forward. With $2,000 in hand, Carol and Don waved goodbye to UCLA and aimed east. Carol had never traveled past Texas, yet excitement drowned fear. Years later, she joked, "I didn't know enough to be scared." They booked $9 nights at the Algonquin Hotel, but money evaporated fast. In tears, Carol called home, ready to retreat, when a radio bulletin announced hurricane Carol charging up the coast. She read the storm as a personal omen. Turn back now and the dream dies. Rent soon dumped them into the rehearsal club, a story boarding house for young actresses. $18 a week bought a cot in a room shared with 4 other hopefuls, 1 bathroom, and a single closet, compared to the couch she'd slept on in Hollywood. The place felt like a palace buzzing with energy. Girls rehearsed lines in hallways, sang scales on staircases, and rolled curlers between auditions. To eat, Carol worked nights as a hat check girl, then chased auditions by day. Glamour was nowhere to be found, but the journey was gloriously real. In March 1955, she and her housemate staged a rehearsal club review and mailed invitations to every power broker in town. Marlene Dietrich showed up, proof that the gamble worked. Carol's first headline-making moment sprouted from pure absurdity, a love ballad for John Foster Dulles, the very serious United States Secretary of State. Composer Ken Welch wrote it as a joke, and Carol leaned into ridiculous angle until audiences howled. The song landed her on the Jack Paar program, and then the Ed Sullivan Show. On January 6, 1957, she stepped onto Sullivan's stage shaking so hard she nearly missed her mark. Yet within minutes the crowd erupted. She returned in August, performed the song again plus a parody of Puppy Love, and became the talk of New York comedy. The next 5 years blurred into tireless hustle. In 1955, she nabbed a small gig on the Paul Winchell Show, playing the girlfriend of a ventriloquist dummy. That tiny part led to Buddy Hackett's sitcom Stanley, though the series lasted only a year. Still, each project sharpened her craft. Then 1959 delivered the milestone that changed everything. Carol won the lead in Once Upon a Mattress, a quirky off-Broadway musical that leaped to Broadway after rave reviews. She embodied Princess Winifred, a loud, clumsy swamp girl worlds away from the dainty heroines of classic fairy tales. Crowds adored her, critics raved, and the industry finally understood. Carol Burnett was unstoppable. The show's runaway success unlocked television variety like the world had never seen. Week after week, Carol invented new characters, belted out duets with superstars, and fearlessly mocked her own insecurities on national TV. Yet behind the sequins and spotlights, memories of hungry nights in that boarding house clung to her heart like wet cement, reminding her that fortune can vanish as quickly as applause. So, when the 1977 sketch laid bare every childhood bruise she had hidden, it sliced through decades of bravado. Friends begged her to watch, agents insisted it was perfect, but Carol quietly turned away. Even today, streaming services beg for the rights to re-air that masterpiece, and she still answers no, because some scars refuse to fade, no matter how bright the laughter. What keeps her moving forward is a promise made long ago to repay the strangers who believed in her. Over the decades, she has funded scholarships, mentored young comedians, and slipped checks to stagehands too proud to ask for help. Even now, far beyond the age when most performers coast on nostalgia, Carol steps on stage and the room buzzes with that famous Tarzan yell. It is a battle cry, a reminder that pain can birth joy, and proof that a 7-year-old girl who once stole theater tissue can command an audience of millions. The journey from peeling paint to Broadway footlights might sound impossible, yet Carol Burnett shows it is only improbable. And that, perhaps, is why she will never erase Karen, the twin who lived in her imagination. Karen was hope in a thrift store dress, courage on a fire escape, and the first character Carol ever played perfection. She owes an invisible sister a debt, just as she owes every stranger who cheered the illusion. In the end, the sketch that made her crumble is not a story of defeat. It is a glowing badge showing comedy can reveal the deepest truth without a single forbidden word. Boom! Success hit like a thunderclap. Once Upon a Mattress exploded, and Carol Burnett snagged her very first Tony nomination. On June 22, 1959, Exactly 5 years after that mysterious loan arrived, Carol and Don marched into a bank and repaid the full $2,000 in cash. The generous millionaire never answered their letter and chose to stay hidden forever. By then, Carol's paycheck had soared to $500 a week, a fortune compared with life in that rundown boarding house. Remember, Matches began as a tiny summer camp musical no one expected to last. Critics stayed lukewarm when it opened on Broadway in May 1959, yet audiences roared with laughter and packed the theater night after night. The run stretched to an incredible 470 performances, hopping from venue to venue whenever crowds outgrew the seats. Carol carried the whole show on her shoulders. When she left in June 1960, ticket sales fell off a cliff. Her replacement managed only 8 performances before the curtain dropped for good. In other words, Burnett had become absolutely irreplaceable. Then came the Gary Moore Show, and Carol's career blasted into the stratosphere. From 1959 to 1962, she sprinted from rising talent to unstoppable television dynamo. In 1962, she clutched her very first Emmy, thanks to the cleaning lady character audiences adored. More important, the program served as a priceless workshop in fearless comedy. Gary Moore warmed up every taping with unrehearsed question-and-answer chats that made the studio crowd feel like insiders. Carol filed that ideal way and later built it into the heartbeat of the Carol Burnett Show.